The House of Representatives just witnessed the largest bipartisan revolt in modern political history. A total of 140 lawmakers, including 62 Republicans, signed an extraordinary joint resolution Thursday morning demanding immediate impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump, citing what they call clear and convincing evidence of criminal abuse of power that threatens the constitutional order. And this isn't symbolic messaging or political posturing that will fade by the next news cycle. This is the largest cross-party coalition ever assembled to demand a sitting president's impeachment, triggered by a bombshell Inspector General report released Wednesday that documents systematic obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and destruction of evidence across multiple federal investigations. When 62 members of a president's own party join the opposition in demanding impeachment with language calling the evidence incontrovertible, you know the political foundations supporting this presidency just shattered. Hit that subscribe button right now because you won't want to miss any of the videos I release. So what triggered this unprecedented bipartisan uprising? According to the 140-page Inspector General report that landed Wednesday at 3 p.m., Trump personally directed at least 11 separate instances of witness intimidation, ordered the deletion of subpoenaed communications from secure government servers, and instructed executive branch officials to provide false testimony to congressional investigators. Sources who reviewed the classified annexes say the evidence includes time-stamped server logs showing deletions occurred within hours of subpoenas being served, recorded phone calls where Trump allegedly threatened witnesses, and sworn testimony from 7 White House officials who directly witnessed the obstruction. This isn't just another partisan impeachment effort that splits along party lines. Constitutional scholars are calling this the most serious institutional crisis since Watergate, with evidence so overwhelming that even Trump's closest congressional allies cannot defend it. And believe me, when 62 Republican House members risk primary challenges to demand their own president's impeachment, something catastrophic has broken the partisan seal that protected Trump through 2 previous impeachments. Here's the full picture of what's been unfolding. Tensions have been building since the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz began investigating obstruction allegations in September 2024, fueled by protected whistleblower disclosures from multiple executive branch agencies. But everything exploded on Wednesday, January 22nd, when the Inspector General released a 140-page report titled "Investigation into Alleged Obstruction of Congressional Oversight and Federal Investigations." The report, mandated by Congress and produced independently of political appointees, detailed a pattern of conduct that lawmakers from both parties described as a systematic assault on congressional authority and federal law enforcement. According to the report's executive summary, the investigation documented 11 specific instances where Trump personally intervened to obstruct ongoing investigations. These instances span from August 2024 through January 2025 and involve multiple federal probes, including the classified documents case, January 6th investigation, and congressional inquiries into financial conflicts of interest. What makes this report particularly explosive is its sourcing and evidence. The Inspector General conducted 87 interviews under oath, reviewed over 45,000 pages of documents, including emails, text messages, and secure server logs, and obtained recorded phone conversations through proper legal channels. The report states, "The evidence presented herein is not based on hearsay, speculation, or partisan interpretation. It consists of time-stamped digital records, sworn testimony corroborated by multiple independent witnesses, and audio recordings obtained through lawful surveillance authorized by federal judges." One section of the report details how on October 15, 2024, just 3 hours after a congressional subpoena was served on the White House for communications related to classified document handling, server logs show 847 emails were permanently deleted from secure government servers. The report quotes testimony from the White House IT director, who stated under oath that Trump's chief of staff personally ordered the deletions and instructed IT staff to make sure there's no recovery possible. This wasn't about political disagreements over executive privilege or document retention policies. This was about allegations that the President of the United States systematically obstructed federal investigations and congressional oversight through witness tampering and evidence destruction. Smash that like button if this is making sense so far. Here's where it really gets serious. Within 6 hours of the Inspector General report's public release, Representative Liz Cheney, who chairs a special oversight committee, called an emergency meeting in the Rayburn House office building. According to staffers who were present, 83 House members attended that meeting, including 38 Republicans and 45 Democrats. The meeting lasted 4 hours. And what happened inside, according to multiple members who spoke on background afterward, was described as the most consequential gathering of House members since the days after January 6th. Representative Cheney opened the meeting by projecting key sections of the Inspector General report on screens throughout the room. According to members present, she began, "We have just received an Inspector General report that documents with incontrovertible evidence that the President of the United States has obstructed justice, tampered with witnesses, and destroyed evidence. If we fail to act, we become accomplices to the destruction of congressional oversight authority and the rule of law." The room fell silent as members absorbed the gravity of what they were considering. Representative Adam Kinzinger, a Republican who has been critical of Trump but remained hesitant about impeachment, reportedly stood and said, his voice steady according to witnesses, "I voted against both previous impeachments. I believe they were rushed and politically motivated." But this is different. The Inspector General is a nonpartisan career official. The evidence is documented, time-stamped, and corroborated. If we don't impeach for this, we're saying there's nothing a president can't do to obstruct investigations into their own conduct. According to members present, Kinzinger's statement changed the dynamic in the room. Representative Jamie Raskin, ranking member on oversight, reportedly added, "This isn't about Trump's policies or his rhetoric. This is about a president systematically destroying evidence, threatening witnesses, and obstructing investigations. The evidence is in the Inspector General's report. It's detailed, it's documented, and it's devastating." Drop a comment right now if you saw this coming. I read every single one. Now things get absolutely explosive. By 10 p.m. Wednesday evening, the bipartisan group had drafted a joint resolution calling for immediate impeachment proceedings. The resolution, released publicly at midnight, was signed by 140 House members, including 62 Republicans, making it the largest bipartisan impeachment coalition in American history. The resolution's language is remarkably direct and uncompromising. It states, "We, the undersigned members of the House of Representatives, having reviewed the Department of Justice Inspector General's report documenting systematic obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and destruction of evidence by President Donald J. Trump, hereby call for the immediate commencement of impeachment proceedings." But the truly stunning part of the resolution is the attached statement signed by all 62 Republican members. That statement reads, "We take this action not as members of the opposition, but as members of Congress fulfilling our constitutional duty. The evidence documented in the Inspector General's report leaves no room for partisan loyalty to override constitutional obligation. When a president obstructs justice, tampers with witnesses, and destroys subpoenaed evidence, impeachment is not a political choice. It is a constitutional necessity." The resolution includes an appendix that summarizes key evidence from the Inspector General report. One paragraph details a recorded phone call from November 3, 2024, where Trump allegedly called a potential witness in the classified documents case. According to the call transcript included in the IG report, Trump stated, "You need to remember that you never saw me with any documents. If you say otherwise, you'll regret it. I take care of people who are loyal, and I destroy people who aren't." Another section describes how on December 8, 2024, after the Justice Department subpoenaed Trump Organization financial records, bank transfer logs show a $2.4 million payment from Trump-controlled accounts to a witness's legal defense fund, a payment the IG report characterizes as potential witness tampering through financial inducement. This move sent shockwaves through Washington and dominated news coverage worldwide. When 62 Republican House members sign an impeachment resolution using language like constitutional necessity and citing incontrovertible evidence, the political calculation has fundamentally shifted. The protection Trump enjoyed through 2 previous impeachments has collapsed. This isn't the first time Trump has faced impeachment calls, but the scale and bipartisan nature of this coalition is unprecedented. During the first impeachment over Ukraine, only one Republican, Representative Justin Amash, who had left the party, voted for inquiry. During the second impeachment after January 6th, 10 Republicans voted to impeach, the most bipartisan impeachment vote ever at that time. But the majority of Republicans stood with Trump, dismissing the impeachments as partisan witch hunts. Subscribe immediately if you haven't yet. This content doesn't exist anywhere else. Now it's completely different. This resolution was signed by 62 Republicans before any formal impeachment articles were even drafted. The evidence comes from an independent inspector general, not partisan congressional investigations. And the conduct documented includes criminal obstruction of justice, not policy disputes or even inflammatory rhetoric. The pattern is clear. Trump has survived previous impeachment efforts through partisan loyalty, but when evidence of systematic criminal obstruction comes from an independent watchdog and is documented through time-stamped digital records and recorded phone calls, even partisan shields crumble. So what exactly triggered this mass defection of Republican support? According to members who signed the resolution and congressional aides familiar with the Inspector General report, 3 specific pieces of evidence proved dispositive. First, the time-stamped server deletion logs. The IG report includes forensic analysis showing that 847 emails subpoenaed by Congress were deleted from secure White House servers on October 15, 2024, just 3 hours after the subpoena was served. The forensic report, conducted by the Homeland Security Department's Cyber Division, confirms the deletions were not accidental. The report quotes IT staff testimony, stating they were ordered to permanently delete with zero recovery possibility. And we're told the order came directly from the Chief of Staff on behalf of Trump. Representative Dan Crenshaw, a Texas Republican who signed the resolution, told reporters, "When you have forensic evidence showing subpoenaed materials were deliberately destroyed within hours of a subpoena, that's obstruction. Period. There's no legitimate explanation." Second, recorded witness tampering phone calls. The Inspector General obtained judicial authorization to record certain phone calls as part of the investigation. According to the report, 3 separate recorded calls exist where Trump allegedly threatened or attempted to influence witnesses. One recording, partially transcribed in the report, captures Trump telling a former White House counsel, "If you testify about what you know regarding the documents, I'll make sure you never work in this town again. Your career, your reputation, everything gone. Think about your family." Representative Peter Meyer, Michigan Republican who signed the resolution, stated, "We're not talking about alleged conversations someone claims happened. We're talking about recorded phone calls with Trump's voice on them, threatening witnesses. That's criminal witness tampering, full stop." Here's the absolute kicker. The third piece of evidence involves financial payments to witnesses. The IG report documents $7.8 million in payments from Trump-controlled accounts to legal defense funds for 4 key witnesses in various investigations, payments made shortly after those witnesses retained attorneys and refused to cooperate with investigators. Treasury Department financial intelligence analysts concluded, according to the report, that the payments exhibit patterns consistent with witness tampering through financial inducement. Representative Liz Cheney stated in a press conference, "When you combine the destroyed evidence, the recorded threats, and the financial payments to witnesses, you have a complete picture of systematic obstruction. No member of Congress can ignore this evidence and claim to support the rule of law." Don't go anywhere. The most explosive part is coming next. And here's what should alarm everyone, regardless of political affiliation. This isn't just about Trump or this specific investigation. If a president can systematically obstruct investigations through witness tampering, evidence destruction, and financial inducement without facing impeachment, then congressional oversight becomes meaningless and federal law enforcement becomes toothless. Once that precedent is set, future presidents of either party will understand they can obstruct any investigation into their conduct as long as they're willing to destroy evidence and intimidate witnesses. The constitutional system of checks and balances doesn't survive that precedent. This puts Trump in an absolutely impossible political and legal position. On one side, he faces the largest bipartisan impeachment coalition in history, with 140 House members on record demanding his impeachment. House Speaker Mike Johnson now faces enormous pressure to allow impeachment articles to proceed to the floor, and with 62 Republicans already committed to impeachment, passage becomes very likely. On the other side, Trump confronts evidence that members of his own party describe as incontrovertible, meaning denying the allegations becomes increasingly untenable as more details emerge. And here's the impossible bind. If Trump claims he didn't order evidence destruction or witness intimidation, he directly contradicts sworn testimony from White House officials and IT staff who state they received direct orders. If he admits the conduct but claims it was legitimate exercise of executive authority, he faces the recorded phone calls showing explicit threats and the financial payment patterns that Treasury analysts characterize as tampering. If he attacks the Inspector General as biased, he undermines an independent watchdog that both parties have historically respected. There's no defense that addresses the totality of evidence. Constitutional scholars and former officials are calling this the most clear-cut case for impeachment in American history. Lawrence Tribe, Harvard constitutional law professor, stated on CNN that the founders designed impeachment for precisely this scenario: a president who obstructs investigations into their own conduct. The evidence documented in this IG report would result in felony charges for any other American. A president doing this threatens the entire constitutional order. John Dean, former Nixon White House counsel who testified during Watergate, told NBC that Nixon was forced to resign for obstruction of justice. The evidence against Trump documented in this Inspector General report is far more extensive and better documented than what we had against Nixon. This is Watergate on steroids. Do me a favor and slam that like button, because it genuinely helps this video reach more people. Even Republicans who have consistently defended Trump acknowledge the gravity of the evidence. Former Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who served under Trump, wrote in a Washington Post op-ed that, while I defended President Trump's policy decisions, the conduct documented in the Inspector General's report, if accurately represented, constitutes clear obstruction of justice. Congress has a duty to hold presidents accountable when they cross this line. So let's break down what this means. First, unprecedented political crisis. Speaker Mike Johnson faces an impossible choice. If he allows impeachment articles to proceed, Trump will be impeached with bipartisan support, validating the proceedings in ways previous impeachments never achieved. If he blocks the proceedings despite 62 Republicans demanding action, he faces potential revolt within his own caucus and accusations of obstructing justice himself. Either choice fractures the Republican Party. Second, massive implications for Senate trial. If the House impeaches with significant Republican support, Senate Republicans face enormous pressure to convict. Unlike previous impeachments dismissed as partisan, this proceeding would come with Republican House members testifying about why they voted to impeach their own president. That fundamentally changes Senate dynamics. Finally, the institutional implications extend far beyond Trump. If this evidence doesn't result in impeachment and conviction, it establishes that presidents are effectively above the law regarding obstruction of justice. Future presidents will understand they can destroy evidence and intimidate witnesses with impunity. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'm genuinely curious to see your perspective. But beyond immediate political fallout, this represents a test of whether Congress can still function as a check on presidential power. The Inspector General produced a detailed, evidence-based report documenting systematic obstruction. A bipartisan coalition of 140 lawmakers reviewed that evidence and determined impeachment is necessary. If that's not sufficient to trigger accountability, then impeachment is dead as a constitutional remedy, and presidential power has no meaningful limits. This scenario is causing chaos within both parties and the White House. Reports indicate Speaker Johnson held emergency meetings Wednesday night and Thursday, attempting to formulate response. Some Republicans argue for allowing a vote, calculating appearing to respect process, is less damaging than appearing to cover up obstruction. Others insist any impeachment vote would energize Trump's base. The caucus is fracturing between those who believe evidence matters and those who prioritize political calculation. Meanwhile, the White House is in crisis mode. Trump has been meeting with lawyers around the clock attempting to develop strategy. Early statements attack the Inspector General as a deep state operative. But polling Thursday shows 71% of Americans believe Congress should investigate, including 52% of Republicans. Things escalated when Trump held a Thursday afternoon press conference. He denied all allegations, claimed the IG report was completely fabricated, and attacked the 62 Republicans as traitors who will be primaried. Legal experts noted Trump didn't address specific evidence like recorded calls or deletion logs, focusing instead on general denials. Stay with me, because what comes next will completely change your understanding of where this leads. Here's what makes Trump's position so precarious. By attacking the 62 Republicans who signed the resolution, Trump pushes more moderates towards supporting impeachment. Every member he labels a traitor becomes more committed to voting for impeachment. And by refusing to address specific evidence, Trump allows the IG report findings to stand uncontested. Political analysts noted this strategic disaster. Republican strategist Sarah Longwell tweeted that Trump is doing Democrats' work for them. Every attack on Republican members makes impeachment more likely, not less. Larry Sabato observed that Trump's inability to distinguish between political attacks and legal defense continues to be his greatest vulnerability in judicial and congressional proceedings. This goes far beyond one impeachment or one presidency. It's about whether the United States can maintain a system where investigations can proceed without presidential obstruction. If a president can destroy evidence, threaten witnesses, and pay off potential testimony without facing removal, then oversight becomes theatrical and accountability becomes optional. That's not a constitutional republic. That's an elected dictatorship where the president operates above the law as long as they maintain sufficient partisan support. If this blows your mind, hit that like button right now. Here's the current situation. 140 House members, including 62 Republicans, have demanded immediate impeachment proceedings based on an Inspector General report documenting systematic obstruction of justice. Speaker Johnson must decide within days whether to allow the impeachment to proceed. Trump's response strategy of attacking rather than defending has made the situation worse, and the evidence documented in the IG report remains unrefuted and compelling. This isn't partisan warfare or political theater. This is the closest Congress has come to impeaching a president with genuine bipartisan support since Andrew Johnson in 1868. When members of a president's own party sign a resolution calling impeachment a constitutional necessity based on incontrovertible evidence, the system is being tested in fundamental ways. Keep an extremely close eye on this story, because Speaker Johnson's decision will determine whether this moves forward or dies in committee. Republican members who signed the resolution are reportedly prepared to force a floor vote through procedural mechanisms if Johnson refuses to act. The Inspector General report has been referred to the House Judiciary Committee for formal impeachment consideration, and pressure from constituents, editorial boards, and fellow members is mounting by the hour. Before we go any further, smash that subscribe button so you never miss content like this, because this constitutional crisis is developing rapidly and represents the most serious challenge to presidential accountability in modern American history. Here's where things stand right now. The largest bipartisan coalition ever assembled has demanded Trump's impeachment based on evidence of systematic obstruction documented by an independent inspector general. The evidence includes time-stamped deletion logs, recorded witness tampering phone calls, and financial payments to witnesses. Trump's strategy of attacking accusers has backfired, pushing more Republicans toward supporting impeachment. And Speaker Johnson faces a choice that will define his speakership and potentially the future of presidential accountability. This isn't just another impeachment effort that will be dismissed along party lines. This is a genuine test of whether documented evidence of obstruction of justice can overcome partisan loyalty, whether congressional oversight can be protected against presidential obstruction, and whether the constitutional system of accountability still functions. The resolution has been filed, the evidence documented, the coalition assembled, and the nation watches to see if Congress will hold a president accountable when the evidence of wrongdoing is clear, detailed, and bipartisan. The stakes have never been higher for the impeachment mechanism as a constitutional check. The evidence has never been more thoroughly documented, and the bipartisan coalition demanding action has never been larger. Pause for a second and hit that like button if you're finding value in this coverage.